Hey guys, Ken here from Backpacking Light, and today I'm recording from our nice little shop, warm inside here in Umeå, Sweden. It's about minus 1-2 degrees outside, but lots of snow and ice, so I'll just do this little rundown in my studio. Today I'm going to talk about some Soulo winter tents by Hilleberg that are fairly popular, that we sell quite a bit of. I wanted to go through the two most popular, I guess I should say three. I'll go grab the Octo here soon. But you have the Hilleberg Soulo. This weighs 2 kilos trail weight, and it has a nice vestibule. And the tent I'm sitting in is the Hilleberg Unna, which is also 2 kilos, but no real vestibule, but instead you get a much bigger tent. And then on the third one, I'll go grab it. Yeah, so another popular winter tent is the Octo. It's a Soulo tent as well, much like the Soulo. And of course you have the much larger, much heavier Alak 2. Now for our purposes, I'm not really going to talk about the Alak 2. I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of the packing size. I think the Alak 2 weighs over 3 kilos, while the Unna, Octo, and Soulo all come in at 2 kilos, with the Octo coming in at about 1.6, 1.7 kilos. This is just a much bigger tent, the Alak 2, so I'll leave that for another review. Now if you look at the Unna, and I would say the Octo as well, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to stick with the Soulo and the Unna, and I'll probably set up the Soulo as well so that you can kind of see the differences side by side. But right now I'm sitting inside the Unna, and I just kind of want to give my own take on the Unna compared to the Soulo, and then I'll show kind of the differences between them. But you can see they're basically the same size, with the Unna being a little bit bigger packing. The biggest difference between these, of course, is that the Unna has a much larger living area, but basically no vestibule, while the Soulo has a much smaller living area, but has a little vestibule. Personally, what I found is I actually prefer the Unna, as it's just a much larger, more comfortable tent, and even for tall people, it works so well. And I can kind of show that if I just get in here, and yeah, got the unbound there. Take that out just so you can see me in the video a little better. So for reference, I'm 190 centimeters tall. It's about 6'3", pretty wide person. And this tent is a very comfortable Soulo tent. Now, of course you say, well, yeah, but I don't have a vestibule in winter. I want a vestibule. But I mean, not really. Not the most important thing. I mean, you can bring your gear in with you, and you can even, I've seen a lot of people where they open up, they take these two sides out here, and then that gives them a bit like an actual vestibule that they can put their stuff in. There's like a little hook here. It's real simple. It's just 2 hooks, and then you've got yourself a nice sized vestibule. Now this tent minimal weight is 2 kilos. I mean, there are lighter, obviously lighter Soulo alpine winter tents. But overall, this is actually becoming one of my favorite Soulo winter tents. Freestanding, very robust, large. If you compare it to something like the Highlight by Black Diamond, which is barely a one-man tent, it's certainly not for tall people, as you will get wet everywhere. It has no vestibule. You can always buy the extra vestibule. But by and large, it's just not a very comfortable tent. And that's about where these kind of ultralight Soulo tents, you have the Samaya, the one-person alpine tent is just tiny. So I don't really bring that up, but good design, good craftsmanship. The Samaya 2 is of course a little bit better, but then you're up in the 20,000 crown, $2,000 range. This one comes in at about half the weight and twice the size. And you get your double wall tent. Like I said, this weighs about 2 kilos. It'll fit nicely on your polka or in most backpacks if you're using something like the pull pack. But winter trips, you're usually going to need a 70-liter backpack anyway for most of those trips, just because it requires a lot more volume in the gear that you're bringing with you. Now, where I would say the Unna is spades ahead of something like the Soulo is that it's both bigger, the inner tent is much bigger, you can make a vestibule in it, but above all else, you can actually use this in the summer as a 2-man tent, as it is big enough for 2 sleeping pads. And I've seen a lot of 2-man ultralight tents that have a smaller living space than this one does. So that is definitely a big bonus as far as I'm concerned. In winter trips and heavy snow and so on, I do prefer freestanding. Yeah, I can go ahead and show the inner tent when that's closed. It's here and also on the inside down at the bottom. And up top you have this little ventilation that you can kind of see there. Maybe it doesn't come up too well on the video, but it's something anyway. I like this. I like the size of it. Somebody like me, the smaller tents, for example, the Soulo, I'll show that in a minute, but the Soulo, which is probably what it's called, not swallow, but that's all right. That's my American accent. Has nice big pockets on the inside. That I can't show you at the moment, but we'll show you soon. And it's got a very big opening, plenty of room for your shoes and so on. You want those covered, and of course you have the outer tent. As I said, the packing size and weight are almost identical on the Soulo and the Unna. Quality, of course, Hilleberg is always top-notch. I once made a video about using the Nyack for winter trips, and still, to this day, I wouldn't mind using it, even the Nyack for winter trips. So if you have a Nyack, you're probably pretty good. But there is a big difference between the Nyack and, for example, the Unna and the Soulo. It's that you can see the tent goes all the way down to the ground. There's no catenary cuts on it. This is meant to basically block out all the wind and snow drifts and everything else. Now, it doesn't have a skirt, but you don't really need a skirt, snow skirt and so on. Not really necessary on a tent like this. You have this large open area, and then you just kind of open up the top of the tent there. And then that gives you all the ventilation you need in this kind of a tent without getting any snow inside. If you compare that to the Hilleberg summer tents, the Anyan, that I've done a video review for winter use as well, and the Nyack, where the ventilation comes from underneath and you kind of have to cheat a bit to get the top ventilation. This one is made specifically for this kind of use, so you're able to ventilate it quite a bit. It's also got, we're talking about tie-outs, lots of tie-outs. You can use your skis or the Hilleberg snow tent pegs to hold it down, as these loops are quite big on the bottom. Yeah, I mean, it's a standard setup, freestanding Hilleberg tent. So this is just like a quick overview of the Hilleberg Unna. I'll see if I can find somewhere where I can set up the Unna and the Soulo next to each other. Soulo. 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 Yeah, hopefully I'll have some live video when I'm using it out on the trail in a couple weeks. Here where the mountains are still covered in snow, meters of snow, and be a nice trip up to the mountains soon.